Dum-de-dum-de-dum. And we are recording. Guess what, folks? It's a Sunday. Yes, it fucking is. Time for a bit of what's up. Yes, trim the beard, shave the head, because Expo's coming up. Didn't want to look like too much of a mess. Anyway, pardon me, before we just started the video and I'm burping already. Fucking hell, right. Before we get into the meat and bones of what this What's Up's all about, on Thursday the 19th, which is technically it is the last UK vape show of this month, because Thursday the 26th I'm going to be down in Birmingham for the October UK Vapor Expo. So Thursday the 19th is going to be the last UK vape show of this month, which means, yeah, there's going to be an auction now. It's going to be a smaller auction, not like the normal end of month auctions, because this is basically all being planned at the last moment. There's going to be a waffle / raffle kind of system going on, because there's not a lot, there was some viewers that are not able to actually watch the live show because they're either over in the United States and they're still at work, because the show kicks off at 9 o'clock in the evening GMT, and it's like 1 in the afternoon or 2 in the afternoon if you're on the west coast of the United States. You're still at work. So there's going to be like auction-y, raffle-y ticket things going off. There's going to be more details about that popped up on a separate video that will go out on Monday morning. There's only going to be about 4. It's going to be about 4 auction boxes that will be diverted into the ticket / raffle system that we're going to be trying out, or that we're going to be testing out, should I say, on the 19th. Basically, you buy a ticket for £5 and your name is automatically drawn, your name is automatically popped into the random list of people whose names or name will be drawn for that particular auction box. That's the way it's going to be run. You can buy as many or as little tickets as you want, simple as that. But there'll be more details about that and how it's going to run with a video that I'm going to be popping up on Monday, because I still need to figure out what I'm actually going to put up for the auctions on the Thursday. I've got about 3 of the boxes already sorted out. And basically what's happening is at the end of every month there's going to be a mini auction rolling off where half the money is donated to children with cancer here in the UK. And the reason I'm doing it is because I have no shelf space. It's as simple as that. I've basically got fuck all shelf space left here, because all those shelves are stacked. The shelves there are stacked, and the shelves in front of me, they're all stacked. I've got it's like those big Amazon moving plastic boxes, about this by about that front to back and about that high. I've got one of those essentially rammed with something close to 200-ish. Something like that. Well, it's going to be under 200 now because we've auctioned some of them off. So it's close to 150 former review sample mods, single battery, dual battery, in some cases triple battery. Is there any quad battery mods in there? I don't think there is. No, I don't think there is. So single, dual, triple battery mods. So I'm basically trying to, auction them all off. Some of the money goes to children with cancer, and that basically means it gives me a bit more room on the shelves to kind of space things out a bit more, because some of the shelves are looking just crammed. They're absolutely rammed with stuff. Some of them are pretty damn good mods as well, but really, flat battery, for fuck's sake. Right, so keep an eye out for the video that's going to be popped up on Monday afternoon, probably late afternoon, with details on how to enter the auction, the raffle auction part of the auction that's coming up on the 19th, which is this coming Thursday. There'll be more details about it once I've managed to pick out what's actually going up for the auction. There'll be more details about it being released on Monday. In fact, what I'm probably going to be doing is, after the What's Up's been recorded, I'm going to go back to sorting out what's actually going to be in the auction coming up this coming Thursday. But yeah, basically at least for the next 4 months, roughly speaking, for the next 4 months there is going to be mini auctions on the last Thursday of that month, as I slowly get rid of all the old review sample mods that have basically just been sitting around, either up at the studio, and since the move from the studio back to the house, here at the house, no tanks and no drippers. It's only mods, right? It's only mods that are going to be up for auction. I was toying with the idea of chucking tanks in, but a lot of the tanks that I've got, like the one sitting in front of me on the build stands, and a lot of the old tanks that are in the history cupboard sitting over there, they're ancient now. They're ancient. I mean, okay, some of those tanks could probably stand toe to toe with the likes of the single. Oh, now the tank's empty, for fuck's sake. Some of those tanks could probably stand toe to toe with the likes of the single coil Osiris, but yeah, a lot of those tanks are old. They're really, really old, and modern RTAs give not far superior flavour, but but marginally better flavour than a lot of the old tanks I've got kicking around here. So it's going to be mods, and mods alone, that's going to be up for auction for the next 4 or 5 months at the end of the month. So yeah, keep an eye out for the short video explaining how the waffly raffly ticket system's going to run. It's the same idea that the Saturday Vape Show did for their big auction that went off for Mick's daughter's the late night vape show for Mick's daughter's fundraiser, because she's got terminal cancer, and the money that was raised from the previous auction, which was something like £500 we managed to raise, that was all donated into Mick's daughter's fundraiser. She has got terminal cancer, and the whole idea was to give her and her family enough money so the time that she's got left can be spent giving her kids good memories. Simple as that, just good memories. So the auctions that are going to be taking place from here on out, unless there's a special auction that comes up, but the auctions that are going to be taking place from here on out, half the money is going to be sent to Children with Cancer UK. So that's where half the money's going. So moving on to something that is rather important. Now, we all know that next year is going to be general election year here in the UK. And I think it's becoming blatantly fucking obvious that there is a snowball's chance in hell of the current Conservative Party winning the general election. Whether the election's going to be held in May of 2024, an early election, or it's going to be held in October of 2024, which is the normal cut-off point for a parliamentary term. Whichever date Rishi Sunak, the current Prime Minister, decides to go for, I think it's blatantly obvious the Conservatives are going to lose. Whether they lose with a small majority towards Labour, or whether Labour wins with a massive landslide, it doesn't matter. The Conservative Party are no doubt going to lose the next general election. A questionnaire. Now this was not a questionnaire that was released by a third party, like a university or a think tank. This was a questionnaire, a white paper, public consultation questionnaire that was released by the UK government. So, little bit of a backstory before we get into the meat and bones of this subject. Rishi Sunak, along with the Department of Health, came up with an idea to basically cut smoking rates down to practically zero in the next 30 odd years. And the idea is this: sometime in 2026-2027, which is halfway through the next parliamentary term, whether it's the Conservatives or Labour that's sitting in government, doesn't matter. It's halfway through the next parliamentary term. What the idea is sometime in 2026 or 2027, a law will be introduced that will increase the minimum age of smoking by 1 year every year. So let's say this law is implemented in 2027. It means in 2028 the minimum smoking age is 19. In 2029 the minimum smoking age is 20. As each year goes up, so does the minimum age of smoking. And the whole idea is this: it means that legal smokers in 2027 are able to legally buy cigarettes for the rest of their life. Fair enough. So it means if you're smoking right now, you can keep smoking. Simple as that. They're not going to do an outright ban on smoking. But what it means is this: if you're 15 years old, 14, 13 years old, if you're under the legal smoking age limit in 2027, when that clock ticks to 2028 and the legal smoking age goes up another year, you're also another year older, which means, technically speaking, if you were born in 2027, you will not be able to legally, or if you were born, if you were born in 2027, or you're 1 year under the legal smoking or the legal minimum smoking age in the UK, in 2027, you will not be able to legally buy cigarettes for the rest of your life. Because even if you are 17 years old in 2027, by the time you reach 18 in 2029, that legal smoking age has been up to 19 years old instead of 18. Yeah. So the idea is that if a child born, essentially a child born in 2027 will slowly grow up in a country where smoking slowly disappears. Simple as that. And that's the plan that the UK government are thinking of putting into action. Via a law that will be passed sometime in 2024 to be implemented in 2026 or 2027. Fair enough. I fully support this idea of a rolling increase in the minimum age of smoking, to the point that when I become 80 years old, if I manage to live that long, it basically means that the younger generation simply don't smoke. Because that minimum age is now, you've got to be something like, 30, 40 years old to be able to legally buy a pack of cigarettes by the time I reach 70 or 80 years old. Fair enough, but also, on top of all this, the UK government has, or the Department of Health, should I say, are already in discussions to essentially ban disposable vapes, single-use plastic disposable vapes in the UK. But it's probably going to happen sometime in 2024. Now, here's the thing. There was a public consultation paper released online by the UK government that is asking for the public's thoughts on this rolling increase on the minimum age of smoking, which, let's face it, everyone's going to accept. Because everyone knows that smoking's bad. Everyone's not going to have a problem, well, apart from the tobacco industry, but everyone's not going to have a problem with the idea that Rishi Sunak and the Department of Health has came up with. But this questionnaire starts asking about vaping. Now, from what I remember of me filling this questionnaire out, the first question was, do you agree that vaping should be included in this rolling minimum age increase? And it's like, yeah, I'll be honest, yeah, I think it should be. Because here's the thing, what's the point of this? This was basically invented to get people off of cigarettes. If you are a non-smoker, you shouldn't really start doing this, because it's pointless. You don't have any kind of inkling on an addiction on nicotine, so why should you start vaping? The whole point of this, and this, and this, and all the little podcasts and AIOs and all that was to get people off of smoking. So yeah, I think that this new law should be implemented, and it should not only include smoking, it should also include vaping. Because here's the thing, if this rolling increase in the minimum age of smoking is going to actually take effect, by the time I hit my 60s or 70s, kids who are in their late teens, 20s or 30s, they're going to be growing up in a society where smoking is slowly vanishing. Well, not slowly, fast vanishing. You know, if they're 20, if they're in their late teens, mid-20s to very early 30s, they're going to be looking at all their friends, and it's going to become not only unusual, but practically rare for that person in their mid-20s to look around to their contemporaries who are also in their mid-20s and see somebody smoking. It's going to be rare, an absolute rarity. Because by the time I'm in my 80s and there's kids in their late teens, mid-20s, the smoking age, the minimum smoking age, will be way up in the 40s. So, yeah, the whole point of this was to get people off of cigarettes. And the whole point is, if this rolling age increase is going to actually take effect, this becomes pointless for people who are young enough to be way under the legal age limit of smoking. So if there's no smokers, they shouldn't really be doing this. So yeah, that's the first part of the questionnaire. Do you agree that vaping, or would you like to see vaping included in this rolling increase of the minimum age of smokers? Yeah, I do. I'm all for it. Simple as that. The worrying part of this questionnaire is what made up the bulk of it. Flavours. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. They started asking about plain packaging. They started asking about limiting the amount of flavours that are available. They started asking about limiting the amount of flavours available, but not to shops who are dedicated vape shops. So there is avenues going out of what looks like the Conservative Party dipping their toe into the water of a possible future flavour limitation. Basically a flavour ban. They have got avenues out of that flavour ban by basically making dedicated vape shops exempt from it. So we're talking supermarkets, petrol stations, corner shops, that kind of thing, will have a flavour ban implemented, but dedicated vape shops that are selling nothing but vapey stuff will not have to implement the flavour ban. The way that they've worded the questionnaire, there's going to be a link to it down there in the description, right? The way that they worded it is a bit on the confusing side. You've got to sit there with a cup of tea or a cup of coffee and a couple of chocolate biscuits and spend a good 20 minutes reading what's being proposed on this white paper and answering the questions. But there is legal avenues for the vaping industry to escape what could be implemented as a flavour ban. If you're an individual running a vape shop, a dedicated vape shop, like VPZ for instance, or independent vape shops, if you're an independent vape shop registered as a vape shop, you'll escape this flavour ban, which could be coming in. This flavour ban, if it does get implemented, will only affect supermarkets, corner shops, market stalls, you know, that kind of place. If you're a dedicated vape shop, the way that some of these questions were worded, if you're a dedicated vape shop, you'll escape the flavour ban. But here's the problem. The Conservative Party have been very hands-off with the vaping industry for the past decade. If you're a vaper in the UK, you'll probably realise this. If you compare the state of the vaping industry here in the UK to the vaping industry in the United States, or the vaping industry as it's turning out now in Australia, or the vaping industry in several European countries, you can realise that for all the faults the Conservative Party have had over the last practically slightly more than a decade that they've been in power, they have treated the vaping industry in the UK with a hands-off approach. This is why the UK vaping scene is as busy as it is. This is why there are thousands, in fact, under some estimations, tens of thousands of vape shops up and down the country, all the way through Scotland, through Wales, through England and through Northern Ireland. If you walk into any town with a decent sized population, like over 20,000, you're probably going to be walking into a town centre that's got at least 2 vape shops in the town centre. Like I live in Irvine, which is right on the west coast, and the population of this town is slightly under 30,000. There's 3 vape shops within 3 minutes walking distance of each other. In fact, e-cigarette outlet is practically across the road from VPZ, and the third vape shop, which is Prime Vapor, they're at the bottom of the Rivergate market, or not market, the bottom of the Rivergate shopping mall. So it's literally within 4 minutes distance of each other, and that's in a town of only 30,000 people. If you get off the train at Glasgow Central Station and you walk out of the right hand side, yeah, it's the right hand side, you walk out of the right hand side entrance into Union Street, there is 7 vape shops. 7 vape shops within the space of about 800 metres of each other. Like an 800 metre stretch of Union Street, 7 vape shops. This is how open and how friendly the Conservative government has been to the vaping industry in the UK. They've had a hands-off approach. What triggered the Conservative government to think about flavours on the back of the disposable ban? I think they've been under pressure for an amount of years now, and it's no secret the anti-e-cig establishment, like Parents Against, was it Parents for Tobacco Free Kids or some crap like that over in the United States, who have been consistently pushing the Biden administration, and before that the Trump administration, to basically put an all-out ban on flavours. They've been making inroads here in the UK. They've found it extremely difficult to make inroads here in the UK because of the Conservative Party's hands-off approach and because of the completely different lobbying system here in the UK. But I think the Conservative Party's been under some pressure for at least the past half decade. Now, will the Conservative Party implement a flavour ban before the end of their current parliamentary term? In other words, will they implement a flavour ban before the next general election? Simple answer, no. No. They simply won't, because here's the thing. These plans are still under white paper advisement. They are nowhere near the stage of an act of parliament. Nowhere near it. It's still in the public consultation phase. And what I'm thinking the Conservative Party is doing is they're making it look to the anti-e-cig establishment lobbyists that they are in the process of doing something. However, the Conservative Party probably know, along with the vast majority of people in the UK, that, let's face it, the Tories have a snowball chance in hell of winning the next election. And even if they do win the next election, they'll probably win it via a hung parliament, which means they will need to team up with the Green Party, the Liberal Democrats and other parties in order to form a majority government in the UK. However, the SNP will not work with the Conservatives. The Lib Dems have already said they will not work with the Conservatives, and the Greens, they don't have enough people to bolster a minimum chaired Conservative Party. So whatever way you look at this, it's going to be a Labour government come 2024. It's going to be a Labour government. So this white paper, which I'm linking on down there, is going to be closing on December the 31st, the end of this year. That white paper is going to basically be put in the hands of a Labour government at the end of 2024. Now, this white paper, the public consultation paper that I'm talking about, is probably the most singular important questionnaire that you, as a UK vaper, will probably ever fill. Because the important eyes that are going to be looking at this white paper is not the current administration of the Department of Health. It's going to be the future administration of the Department of Health. In other words, the Labour Party. If the anti-e-cig establishment drums up enough interest in flooding this white paper with anti-e-cig comments, the Labour Party at the end of 2024 are going to look at this white paper that the Tory party put in previous to them, and they're going to think, well, the public want a flavour ban. There's your flavour ban in place. And we're looking at a Labour Party at the beginning of their first 4 or 5 year term. Anything bad they want to do, they'll put it in at the very beginning. And that way they can gloss over it by the time the end of that parliamentary term has been reached, in order to secure a second parliamentary term. Yeah, if you're a vaper in the UK, or you are a vaper, or you are a non-vaper, and you know a vaper in the UK, direct them to the link down in the description. It's probably going to be the singular most important questionnaire they are going to fill as a vaper here in the United Kingdom. Because the problem is not so much what the questionnaire represents. The problem is the government that's going to look at that questionnaire and take that questionnaire as gospel, which is no doubt going to be the Labour Party. It is no secret that the Labour Party is anti-vaping. No secret at all. None whatsoever. None whatsoever. Several members of the Labour shadow cabinet, the front bench, several members of that Labour shadow cabinet has already stated publicly they would want to enact a flavour ban. Tobacco and menthol only in the UK. Several backbench members of the Labour Party have outright stated they want a flat ban. Everything to do with vaping. Banned. This is the government that's going to be coming into power in 2024. Unless the Conservative Party manage to pull off a political miracle, which I fucking doubt they're going to be able to do, but unless the Conservative Party pull off a political miracle and end up being voted in the next election, which I honestly cannot see happening, but this is the party that we're facing, the Labour Party getting into power. Vapers in the UK have had it easy over the past decade. And I say that as someone who started vaping at the very beginning of 2014. I've been vaping for practically a decade now. We've had it easy. The reason we've had it easy, the Conservative Party has treated the vaping industry with a big hands-off approach. Hands off. Let the industry regulate itself. In some cases it worked. In a lot of cases, like the disposable fiasco, it simply hasn't worked. But Labour is going to treat the vaping industry with a very, very big hands-on approach, considering certain members of their current shadow cabinet are strictly anti-vaping. They want to see the destruction of the vaping industry in the UK. They do. They want to see the destruction of the vaping industry in the UK. So this questionnaire, along with the disposable problem, if the Conservative Party managed to slip in the disposable ban before the beginning of the next Parliament, when Labour takes over, it means that Labour can no longer use the disposable problem as another reason to say, oh look at all these kids vaping, we need to ban vaping. The Conservative Party need to push through the disposable ban as quick as they possibly can. They've even mentioned the disposable ban in this questionnaire. If you're in the UK and you're a vaper, you want to spend at least 20 minutes looking at this questionnaire and filling out the questions. It's probably the single most important questionnaire to do with vaping that's ever been released in the UK. Ever been released in the UK. Because whatever the outcome is of this questionnaire, if there is a massive swing in favour of flavour bans, the next government, that will be Labour, will look at the questionnaire and they will raise this questionnaire up in public and say, look, the public want the ban. You've got to close off every single presentable open door to the Labour Party in order for them to make a flavour ban very, very difficult to pass. Very difficult to pass. Anyway, link to the questionnaire is down there in the description. Yeah, if you're a vapor in the UK, you'll want to spend 20 minutes filling it out. Simple as that. 20 minutes filling it out. Now, what this means for the future of vaping is right now up in the air, because we don't know what kind of front bench Sir Keir Starmer is going to have when he eventually takes power at number 10, either in May of next year or October of next year, depending on when Rishi Sunak calls the general election. We don't know if the current shadow cabinet is going to be the cabinet when Labour take power. For all we know, all those anti-e-cig front benchers may end up being kicked out in favour of more neutral parties to do with vaping. More neutral parties, but whether that happens is anyone's fucking guess. But what I can definitely say is this: the days of a UK government having a hands-off approach to vaping in the UK is now coming to an end. That's a fact. It's now coming to an end, because there is a snowball's chance in hell of the current Conservative Party winning the next general election. Simple as that. So we now have to be very careful and keep a very, very close eye on things, especially keeping a close eye on what the Labour Party, or what the Labour Party's thoughts are on vaping as a whole in the United Kingdom. And that white paper down there is basically the first open door that needs to be firmly closed before Labour get into power. Simple as that. Simple as that. Am I saying that there is going to be an immediate flavour ban the week that Labour step into number 10? No, there isn't. But Labour are going to have a full first 4-year term, and this is after more than 10 years of Conservative rule. They're going to walk into number 10 more than likely with a lot of goodwill behind them from the majority of the British public, after having had to suffer over 10, well, not so much a full 10 years of Conservative incompetence, but at least the past 2 years since Brexit of Conservative incompetence. They're going to walk into number 10 on a wave of goodwill. You can be guaranteed within the first year of a Labour government, the former Shadow Health Secretary, who will now be the full Shadow Health Secretary, will bring up the question about vaping. It's bound to happen within the first year of a Labour government. So we're looking at 2024 going into 2025. This is when this white paper questionnaire put in by the previous Tory government will come into play. If disposables have been banned before Labour get into power, that's the disposable door slammed shut in their face. But if this white paper ends up having all the anti-e-cig establishment, parents for tobacco, free kids and all this, basically flooding this questionnaire and biasing it in their favour, like well into their favour, all the Labour Party have to do is go, look at this white paper, look at the questionnaire the previous Tory government put into place. The public want a flavour ban. And that's it, flavours are banned. Simple as that. That's it. Done. Dusted. Simple as that. This is why this particular particular questionnaire is extremely important. If it was another university, like a third-party questionnaire from a university or Action on Smoking and Health, we could basically ignore it. But because it's on the government website, released as a public questionnaire, it cannot be ignored. It can't be ignored. Cannot be ignored. Simple as that. Anyway, I think that basically covers it, folks. For the people wondering, yes, I will be at the October Vapor Expo in Birmingham on the 27th, 28th and 29th, the last weekend of this month. You'll probably find me hovering around the Ohm Zone a lot, at least for the 2 public days. If you're on Patreon, Subscribestar or YouTube members, I'll be putting in probably as we get closer, because we're still like a couple of weeks out. As we get closer to that weekend, I'll be popping up times where folks from Patreon, Subscribestar and YouTube members can basically get the hiccups all of a sudden, can basically meet up for a quick chatter around a couple of pints. But as we get closer to the expo date, that's when I'll pop up times, and we're probably going to end up meeting in the Ohm Zone, to be honest. Yeah, it'll probably be the Ohm Zone, but I'll put up times on the Saturday and on the Sunday. Anyway, that's it for me, folks. Don't forget, tomorrow afternoon-ish, the little short video about what's going to be up for auction for this coming Thursday will be popped out, along with details on how to enter the actual raffle draw thing that we're going to be doing. That's it from me, folks. As always, thanks for watching and have a good one.